On February 20th, 1991, a tragic and horrifying event unfolded at SeaLand of the Pacific in Canada. Kelty Byrne, a 20-year-old student and part-time whale trainer, slipped and fell into a tank holding 3 orcas. To the shock and horror of everyone present, the whales, including a large male named Tilikum, repeatedly dragged her underwater. Despite desperate efforts from other trainers to save her, the whales played with her like a toy, pulling her down again and again. After several terrifying minutes, Kelty Byrne drowned. This tragic incident marked the beginning of a long and troubled history with Tilikum, who was later involved in more fatal attacks. Join us in today's video as we uncover the horrifying story of Kelty Byrne. Who was Kelty Byrne? Kelty Byrne was a kind-hearted young woman who loved animals, especially those in the ocean. At 20 years old, she was a biology student at the University of Victoria and had a dream job at SeaLand of the Pacific in British Columbia. SeaLand, which opened in 1969, was famous for its orca shows and drew large crowds to see the magnificent killer whales up close. Kelty saw this as a perfect opportunity to work with the creatures she admired the most and earn some money to support herself. SeaLand housed several orcas, but many struggled in captivity and died. Eventually, SeaLand acquired 3 orcas from Iceland, a large male named Tilikum and 2 females, Nutkabun and Hydasatu. These orcas had a rough time adjusting to their new environment. Tilikum, despite his size, was often bullied by the 2 females. They were kept in small metal pens that were only 26 feet across and 20 feet deep, far too small for these massive animals. For Tilikum, who was 22 feet long, this meant that if he stood vertically, he would stick out of the water. These pens were their home for 14 hours each day. Life in captivity was harsh for Tilikum and the others. They often had bruises and cuts from the fights and from rubbing against the metal sides of their pens. The stress of their confined living conditions was compounded by the grueling schedule they were forced to endure. They performed for audiences 7 days a week, sometimes for up to 8 hours a day. This relentless pressure and lack of proper space led to significant trauma and stress for the whales. Tilikum attacked Kelty. On February 20th, 1991, SeaLand of the Pacific. Kelty Byrne, a dedicated and hard-working trainer, fell into the pool where 3 orcas, including Tilikum, were kept. The afternoon shows had just finished, and many people were still in their seats. As Kelty was cleaning the pool, she slipped and fell halfway in. Normally, falling into the pool wasn't a big deal, and Kelty tried to pull herself out. But as she grabbed the side to lift herself, Tilikum grabbed her foot and pulled her back into the water. The orcas, especially Tilikum, saw Kelty as a new toy and didn't miss the chance to interact with her. Tilikum, who had been under a lot of stress and frustration, went wild. He dragged Kelty around the pool, pulling her underwater repeatedly. The other 2 whales joined in, making the situation even more dangerous. Head trainer Steve Huckster, who saw the incident, later said that the whales were extremely excited because they had never had something so interactive in the pool before. Kelty became a living toy for the whales, and her attempts to free herself only made them more excited. Every time she tried to reach the side of the pool, the whales pulled her back. Kelty's colleagues, including trainer Karen McGee, watched in horror. They threw a life ring to Kelty, but Tilikum wouldn't let her grab it. The trainers banged buckets and threw fish into the water to distract the whales, but nothing worked. Tilikum's pent-up frustration and trauma came out in violent playfulness. They threw a large net into the water to try to separate Kelty from the whales, but it only made things worse, causing the whales to stay underwater longer. This tragic event resulted in Kelty's death and raised serious questions about the safety and ethics of keeping such powerful animals in captivity. It marked the beginning of a long and troubled history with Tilikum, and highlighted the need for better treatment and understanding of these intelligent creatures. On that fateful day, As trainers leaned over the side of the pool, they watched in horror as the three whales, including Tilikum, battered Keltie Byrne around underwater. She was being slammed against the sides of the pool, causing severe injuries. It was clear that her bones were breaking. Keltie, still conscious, screamed for help one last time before being pulled under once more. She couldn't hold out any longer, and within moments, she drowned. The coroner later confirmed it was a forceful drowning. After about 2 hours, Tilikum finally released Keltie's lifeless body. When it was recovered from the pool, her injuries were gruesome. She had multiple fractures, punctured organs, and cuts all over her body. It was a heart-wrenching sight. Despite the tragedy, SeaLand's manager, Alejandro Boll, downplayed the incident, describing it as a tragic accident and noting the whales had stripped her clothes off and left tooth marks on her body. Why Tilikum attacked a trainer. Tilikum was never like the other whales. Even though he hated being in captivity, he was still playful and eager to learn. Many trainers at SeaLand enjoyed working with him more than the other two orcas, because he was young and energetic. However, Tilikum often struggled with following commands, and because of this, all three whales were sometimes denied food. This likely caused the other whales to resent and bully Tilikum. The situation was made worse by the cramped conditions at SeaLand. To protect Tilikum from being attacked by Nootka and Haida, he was often kept in a separate, smaller pen, but this only added to his stress. Biologist Eric Walters noticed the troubling signs early on. He wrote letters to the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies, warning them about the unsafe and cruel conditions the whales were kept in. Walters highlighted that the whales were stored in dark, small metal pools at night, with no stimulation or enrichment. These conditions took a toll on Tilikum. He began to show possessive behavior, grabbing anything that fell into his pen and refusing to let it go. Walter's warnings came true as Tilikum's behavior became more erratic and dangerous over time. This growing instability led to the tragic events of February 20th, 1991, when Tilikum and the other orcas, overwhelmed by stress and frustration, fatally attacked Keltie Byrne. Aftermath. Keltie's death shocked many and outraged animal rights activists. They blamed the terrible conditions and poor management of the whales in captivity for their violent behavior. This incident led to the closure of SeaLand of the Pacific, but the orcas were not freed. Instead, SeaWorld in Orlando purchased Tilikum, giving him another platform where he would go on to kill 2 more people, Daniel Dukes and trainer Don Branchot. Tilikum's story became infamous. He was the only orca known to have caused the deaths of multiple people. His final attack on Don Branchot was particularly disturbing and made sensational news. This incident prompted governments to reevaluate the ethics of keeping orcas in captivity. Today, there is still a heated debate about whether marine parks like SeaWorld should be allowed to keep orcas as performing animals. The tragic stories of Keltie Byrne, Daniel Dukes, and Don Branchot have led many to advocate for greater awareness and changes in how we treat these majestic creatures. What do you think about this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos.